Hey y'all. I think we are connecting to YouTube Live and LinkedIn Live. This is Sam from the Roots of Change podcast, and we have Taj Smith on to talk about collective social resilience amidst chaos. Welcome, Taj.
Hey Sam. Hi everybody. Thanks for having me.
How's it going? How are you in the midst of April 2024, 2025?
What a time to be a human. um, I feel like this question has been such a hard one to answer. And the way I've been doing things has just been like really trying to focus on the micro and like focus on the intersection, the things that are at the intersection of what matters and what I can do. Um, and not think so much about like everything that happens at the macro, because with the macro it gets to be too much and I get overwhelmed, but like you know trying to stay grounded in like the fact that there are things that I can do, there are things that I can control, and um within that like sphere of like influence and control, like there's some real change to be made there, and that feels exciting. It feels terrifying. And amidst everything else, it also feels exhausting.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, my friends and I used to say what a time to be alive as a joke. And it became very real very quickly. But I think, oh, amazing, we've got some folks on. Okay. I'm just trying to get all of the things up and make sure that we are actually live on YouTube and LinkedIn. And it does look like we have some folks in studio. So welcome in. We are so happy to have you. So just so you guys know, we are trying to do a little bit more interactive events and podcast for the Roots of Change podcast, because we are in a moment where we need collective action. We need to come together. And there's a lot of benefits for how we can move together. And so with this new podcast, we can now get in studio with folks. So if you are a member of the Roots of Change podcast, you're a seedling member, you can get access in here. So we've got a bunch of folks just chatting away. Would love to hear from the chat in terms of like how you guys are doing. How are you entering this 2025? We had Earth Day 2 days ago. And as Taj said, there's a lot of complexity to just being alive right now, and really moving through the different emotions that we're all experiencing. So, to get started, I would love just, Taj, for you to give us a little bit of a background of who you are, why you're here, and what your superpower is for the movement.
Ooh, let's see. I'll start with let's see. Who am I? Well, my name is Taj M. Smith. I use he him pronouns. I am I've been an activist in LGBTQ rights since I was 16 years old. I'm 38 now, so that's that covers some time. um, worked on some campaigns for worked on a campaign for marriage equality in California, and a campaign for trans rights here in Massachusetts, and um, in all of the movement work that I've done, like as a teenager, in college, in grad school, like in just like across like throughout the time that I've been in movement spaces, just um, seeing how easy it was for people to just give everything to the movement and burn
Mm.
themselves out, and like having done it myself like a few times, um, and finding that like as much as it was an expectation, especially in like the nonprofit world, like uh it's there's also like there's also like a way that like within movement and like the building, like we can lose sight of like the fact that we are all people working together who are like coming together. It's not just like coming together for common cause, it's also like building community and like centering um that we need to do more to like center care within that, um
Mhm.
care of each other. um so like yeah, my superpower for the movement is healing. I went to divinity school and did my my MDiv. I thought for a while that I was going to be a pastor, and still feel like uh, there is like that like pastoral care aspect of it is like how I think about my work. Um, but it's also like bound up in like liberation
Mm.
for like all life on this planet, really, like not just people but like animals and plants as well. Like we're all um imprisoned by capitalism, and there's a lot that we must do to get free. um there's a lot that we can do to get free, and we absolutely cannot do it if we can't care for each other. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I am in the chat is saying I feel that from you every time I'm in a shared space with you, Taj, and I definitely feel that. I'm just gonna note we are having some sound issues, so Taj, I'm not sure if you can increase your volume a little bit. But while you do that and see if you can figure that out, I definitely relate to that, and I just appreciate, the groundedness that you bring to the movement, because there's so much for us to feel activated about. The climate crisis is real. It is really activating to be a human right now and to watch the climate destruction, to watch us increase our fossil fuel footprint, to watch us increase plastic production, to build new water sucking and energy sucking, energy storage plants for AI. We don't need to be doing that. And that all impacts, how we move in this world. We're all being bombarded by this harm. And so, how do we then move within movements, within activist spaces, so that we can be supportive and actually create that change?
yeah, I mean, like you hit the nail on the head, Sam. Like there's so much that's happening that we have taken to like we have just kind of like let become essential. Um well, not let become essential. Like the powers that be have told us that these things are essential, and so now like we're expected to use AI because the speed of business moves at a breakneck pace, so that if you're not using AI, you are essentially behind. But you know, every AI inquiry, every chat GPT inquiry, like uses what is it, like 3 liters of water or something like that of potable water to cool the data storage system. Like there is so much that goes into it that like we in the United States and like Europe, the global north, that we don't really like see or feel the consequences of. um but you know, they're definitely felt elsewhere, and
Yeah.
seen elsewhere. um and like yeah, there's more to being a human community than just like being in the same space. You know, like we have to take intentional action, and that's
Yeah.
that's what this is all about.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that's like, when we get back to the grounded part of it, it's like being grounded and not being overwhelmed, dysregulated, as we're seeing in the chat. People really resonating with that. Um, you know, if we are not dysregulated, if we are more grounded, then we're moving and making choices that are more grounded in who we are and our own values. And I think so much of our world right now is pushing us against that. There's the idea of like having to the capitalist, speed of the way our life runs. And if we just do a little bit of work around how do we disengage from that speed of the system, then we have more capacity to really open up and really understand, the impacts of our individual lives. There is definitely like, the global majority folks who are Black and Brown who live in, Latin America, in Central America, and Africa, and other parts of the world. They are seeing that climate destruction more acutely. We ship all of our trash and plastic over to Southeast Asia, and a lot of that, has to do with colonization, because, they get money from us dumping their trash, and if that's the way to build wealth in this world, that's the way people are going to do it, because that's the only way that we're offering people from the global majority to build up wealth. And so, like, how do we shift those systems so that, one, we are listening to the people in the global majority and actually, building sustainable and healthy lifestyles across the world, and then, lifting up everyone so we all have healthy lifestyles.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Um, that groundedness that you're talking about is key, and is like that intentional piece. Like, because it like groundedness doesn't just happen. It's not like we wake up one day and it's like, oh, I'm gonna be grounded today. Or maybe like that is more choice than most of us put into going about our day.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know, like I have a morning routine. I wake up in the morning. I know exactly like what my next step is from the minute I open my eyes and get out of bed. I'm like, okay, it's just like autopilot. The switch flips. I get out of bed, make the bed, go to the bathroom, start brushing my teeth, washing my face, do all of that stuff. And it's not until maybe like an hour after I've been awake, I start thinking about, oh, I should probably consider how I want to approach today.
Mm,
Um, and that's only when I take the intentional space to like have that check in, and like think about like what it actually means to approach the day, and like how I want to like be present with myself and with other people throughout the day. Um, yeah, so like when we make the choice to be grounded and we like decide to put some intention behind like our choices and uh the ways that we come together and like relate to one another, like we start to see that like we start to like think about our values and like what actually matters and like how to um move forward while like considering impact on
mm.
like the world around us.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, so one, I want to ask you if you can kind of give us an example and kind of illustrate what grounding can look like for folks. And I also like what you just shared is so important around like how we make decisions and our individual decisions and that kind of collective impact. Because I think, one of the biggest things with the climate crisis, one of the biggest things with the climate crisis is it's easy to feel overwhelmed. It's easy to feel like you are smaller. Like, I am only one person. How can I solve this giant crisis? How can I be up against ExxonMobil? Um, and really, like, what we have to recognize is like our collective actions. So much of that, I say, like, activism is like a trickle can lead to a waterfall. If we all put in a little bit of a trickle, then that is all that waterfall coming out because we collectively move and we collectively show that we want a better world. And we do that through our intentional actions.
Right. 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 Um, yeah, happy to like do some grounding if that feels good. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, let's do it. Okay, so let me change my posture here. Um, for this, I invite you to just if you are sitting, to sit in a way where you can feel connected to the ground. Um, like plant your feet or your seat. Just feel that connection of your body to the surface underneath you. Really like once that feels like it's like solid, you can close your eyes if that feels good. Do a deep breath in and out. And in that space when you're breathing, pay attention to the exhale. Just at the end of the exhale, where your body's not doing anything. It's a moment of stillness. There are no processes running, no energy being converted. In that split second between your last exhale, your next inhale. Tap into that stillness. As you do, I invite you to put hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Source of life, source of energy. I invite you to take a big, deep breath in through your nose. Let it expand all the way through your chest. And then out through your mouth. Feel your chest contract, deflate. Do that one more time. In through the nose. That chest expansion. Out through the mouth. Feel the deflation. Now just steadily move your hand away from your chest. But be mindful and like remember the feeling of your hand against your chest as you move it away. Back down to your sides. The energy radiating from your chest, let that expand outward into the world. Feel it expand and vision it enveloping you. Bubble of radiant light. And let it be bright when it's focused around you, but as it expands, it dissipates. It dissipates and goes out into the world, spreading little bits of you and your energy throughout your surroundings, immediate surroundings, impacting the people around you. the light is fully when the light is fully dissipated, slowly open your eyes, come back into the room, come back into yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Yeah, I don't want to like jump too quickly back into the conversation. But yeah, I'm curious for the folks that are listening in, like, how did that feel for you? Did you feel like it was easy to jump into that breath? We've got awesome, so that's good. Yes. Um, how is it feeling to like come out of it? Are you feeling um, better? Are you feeling more grounded? Are you feeling more anxious? Yeah, let us know. I think, Taj, I'd love to hear from you, just like kind of explaining a little bit of like what we just did and why. So we've got a much more relaxed, slowed down. Sometimes it's easy and other times not so much. So that's where I wanted to ask about, because I know some folks this it's harder to get into those modes. So
Yeah, yeah. I like to start with that one, like having your eyes open and just connecting to like the physical like ground beneath you, supporting your body, just to like remind you that you are not just like you're not just a floating brain. One, that there is like something supportive around you, and it is the ground, and like whatever surface that like you're on that is interfacing with the ground, like that it is always there. um like firmly planting in that before like closing the eyes and like starting to do some of the more like deep breathing. I like to move through like the uh like external, then we go internal, then like slowly back to external again. um just to kind of like go on that journey, just to help folks focus on like the little bits of stillness that they can find in both the stillness and support that they can find in the world around them, but also like inside of them, which like that's the like connecting to your heart, like feeling your heartbeat, feeling your chest expand and contract with each breath. um uh like paying attention to like the little moment of exhale when like when your body is like at rest. um uh just like we have so many of these little moments throughout the day, that is are so easy to uh take for granted, to not notice. And like noticing them, it's like drawing our attention to them. It's like, like remember that like there is every second you breathe, there is a split second where your body is at rest. Uh, and so that rest is something that you can tap into at any time.
yeah. Yeah, I think a lot about like Trisha Hersey, of course, and the Nap Ministry, and like just the idea of like the older Black grandmother, just like, I'm resting my eyes, and just like finding those moments anywhere that we can, so that we can like deepen, and then there is that little bit of restore. And it's not that we could have the perfect spot, where M in the chat is saying, it's just hard to find those spaces where you have that chill. If you're a mom and you have kids, like, you've got lots of noises. My dog just came up, so you might hear some barking going on after this. So I think it's just like, it's really challenging just in our current reality to get into those spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean the constant like dinging of the devices, like things going off all the time, vibrating and like making little noises. It's like it's almost like another creature to interface with, but it's a machine. Um,
Yeah. It's your own Tamagotchi. We have to feed our iPhones.
yeah, basically, I feed it with my undivided attention.
Yes.
Um, but like just how much like even in the years that like the iPhone has been a thing, that smartphones have changed our relationship to like the world, and like um how present we are in any given moment. Like it's wild to me that like this device is able to like wrench my attention at any given second, like
Yeah.
because of something that's happening in that screen.
Yeah, and I like so much of why I wanted to host this session today was like to kind of dig into that for folks. I think like with social media and the rise of smartphones, which happened around like 2012, like Instagram is really like that's how our current social media reality has transformed. Because before that, before we had the phone, a lot of like our social media, a lot of our online presence was a little bit more like social networking. It was like collaborative, you know, like I was talking to some high schoolers about Tumblr yesterday. And it was actually like some people were like, oh my gosh, you knew Tumblr when it was like Tumblr. So I was like, okay, cool. There's like some young queer kids who like know what Tumblr was. Um, but like now we have Instagram, TikTok, like so much of it is like we are the influencers, and there's this like expectation. We're now like supposed to make all of our money off of being social media influencers. And like you see a lot of younger folks kind of trying to move in that direction to be like, well, that's where the money is, right? And it's just like we lose so much of our own selves and our connective tissue and like our ability to relate to people when we're trying to build up this like persona that isn't really ourselves online.
Right, because I mean so much of the advice around it too is just like, here's what I did and here's why it works and why you should copy it. So even with that, like there's not really a ton of space to like find your own way of doing, like in being an influencer, of being like a social media magnet. Um there's a lot of there's a lot of just like copy paste and like people doing the same thing, um which is like one of the things that I noticed with TikTok. Like I'm like, why is everybody doing the same dance?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've seen this dance like 15 times on my feed. I don't want to see this dance again. I don't care who's doing it. I don't want to see it. But like that, like fame through repetition, and that
Mm.
like like I in order for me to get like clout and what I need to survive, I have to do what this other person did. I have to replicate what this other person did to be successful. um it just kind of like it like severely like diminishes creativity, I think, and like
Yeah.
our own ability to like think for ourselves, and like to find out like what actually like works for us. um yeah, I don't know, I think back to the days like I used to be I am a musician. I used to be a singer songwriter back in the day, and like my big social media investment was MySpace Music. I spent so much time on MySpace
Mm.
Music, networking with other musicians, like meeting bands who like were in like my same wheelhouse that I might be able to perform with, meeting bands who like I just liked their sound and was just like, hey, cool, like I let me come carry instruments at your next show, like so I can come, like, and just like ways to like use that to have other experiences to like get out of my like break out of my own bubble, and just how much of that like isn't the social media experience of today, and how much it's just like how much today is like based on following a blueprint that will result in money.
Yeah, and I definitely want to uplift Linda's comments in the chat, saying that's what we're seeing now, mimicry done poorly. And she said, don't go where the puck is, you're going where the puck is going. And I think that is so important, especially for folks like activists, movement folks, communicators, because so much of what we're experiencing now is like we have bought into the algorithms. We have bought into the idea that this machine and the people behind the machine, let's be clear, it's not like a machine is deciding who is going to see your post. It is like tech bros. And so when those people are making decisions for our world that don't support our world, you know, like we need to be really aware of that. That a lot of this is by design, and a lot of this is using, you know, psychology. It's using our own emotions against us so that we stay on their apps, so that Meta and TikTok and Google and all of them are making money off of us through ads, through data extraction. And like to your point, it's like, yeah, maybe like YouTube has like a pretty good, you know, payment program for creators. It's still not enough. Like they should be getting paid way more because the amount that they're contributing to Google's profits. You know, so it's, I think it's just like that nuance that we really need to be aware of, and we need to be honest about, instead of just like pretending it's not there.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think it goes back to like it comes back to like engaging with these platforms in an intentional way, and like knowing that like they that like if you're engaging with these platforms, like being aware of the purpose that it is serving within like your movement, right? And not just scrolling just to scroll, which, you know, everybody like I'm guilty of it. Like I scroll just to scroll all the time. But when I actually take a moment to like remember oh, like I'm actually using this, the whole reason I got on Instagram today was to send a message to that friend that I haven't talked to, and we only talk on Instagram. Like, okay.
Yeah.
um, like like to remember like the connective piece of it, and then uh to like ground myself in that, so that way like when like I start just going to the feed and scrolling, I can say like, okay, well, I've done the thing that I intended to do. I can close this app now.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that takes a lot of discipline too to like even get to that question. And we're seeing a lot of like upselling in the chat, saying like we like creating these online communities, like the community part. We need to get to the community part, because like we either are building you know, connective tissue and building that for the offline world too. Like so much of organizing should be like where we can organize on our digital devices while also building those bridges into deeper connection. And so let me just take a step back, because I know we have a bunch of tech enthusiasts on the call, because it's not like tech is bad. Like Taj, you and I connect over tech. We don't live together. Like we have a friendship because of technology. But we found each other on like LinkedIn, and then we deepened our connection. It wasn't like a like or a comment and just staying on the platforms. It was building that into something deeper. Tech is a gateway. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, we live on opposite sides of the country. It's highly unlikely that we would have met any other way.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but then like also like being willing to take that chance, and yeah, I think because what we we hung out in person one time.
Yes.
Which was dope because I was visiting the Bay Area and it was like, okay, like, yeah, like, who do I know who lives out here? Like, oh, I have a handful of people. Like, oh, let me hit up some of my new online friends and see if like who wants to hang out.
Yeah.
um, and like being intentional um about like wanting to deepen that relationship and like move it in a way that like uh uh takes it offline um
Yeah.
is huge. And it's so much of like what's needed, um especially like in some of these like collective action spaces where now like we like yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. We're in some of these collective action spaces.
Totally. Um, yeah, and I want to kind of like start to move into like some resources and tools, like ways that we help ourselves reground and, you know, get away from like the social media noise, or at least let that be less loud. I do want to just like share, around the digital spaces and like the authenticity of connection. Because, when we look at like impressions and engagement and clicks, like a lot of folks have been so trained to only look at those surface level engagement metrics. And like, what does that really do for you? What if you are an organization, what does that do for your organization? Because I think, one thing that you and I talk a lot about is like, how do we build movements with that deeper engagement, to your point? Um, and like, what I'm really trying to say is like, you might get, 20 impressions on a post, but one person sees that post and that person is your next collaborator, And so, like, we just never know what engagement truly looks like. And so, I think, like, for me, one thing that I'm trying to do is shift what engagement, what connection is for me so that it goes back to being human.
Right, right. That's exactly it. Like figuring out what engagement is for you, and not letting some tech bro define it. Um, yeah, like there are definitely insights to be gleaned from some of those like some of those like top level metrics, right? Like likes and shares and all of that can tell you like how your message is resonating, but like it doesn't tell you how it impacted the people reading it.
Mhm.
Um, like, yeah, someone might like it, but like that kind of gives you some insight, but like you never know what's going to be the post that somebody remembers like years later. And it's probably not the one you think it is.
Yeah.
which is like I don't know. I love that kind of like randomness factor to it. It's just like, oh, you remember me for that post about turtles that I made in like 2019? Cool.
I mean, I'm down for the turtles for sure.
Did I actually post about turtles in 2019? Who knows? I don't remember.
Yeah. But
But
but I think what you're getting to is the authenticity part. And I think like so much of that is getting back to like being digital but being human. And I definitely want to uplift that, like, in the chat, chronically ill, disabled, or rural people, For them, virtual connections are real and they're really essential. And I do want to be very clear about that because we talk about digital and they're unhealthy spaces. We are in a lot of unhealthy spaces and we need to transition to healthier digital ecosystems. But there's so much benefit to the technology that we have now. So it's really about how do we build the momentum for regulation? And then in the meantime, how do we support ourselves individually and then collectively so that we're not being impacted by these big tech algorithms that are really trying to keep us trapped in these old systems? So I would love to kind of start a little bit to talk about some ideas and ways that you either use social media in a healthy way or the ways that you try to disconnect from social media. And would definitely love to hear from folks in the chat. So definitely put in your own recommendations. And I know I'll just say that we've gotten a ton of links and recommendations. So if you're subscribed to the Roots of Change newsletter, that will be in there, and we'll also include some of these in the show notes so you guys can get a little action of what's going on in the chat too.
Yeah, so I use social media to like help me connect to people who I might also want to connect with outside of social media. Like, I feel like one of my favorite moves on social media, like I'm on LinkedIn for the most part. LinkedIn and like use Instagram personally. I have a business account on Instagram. It's got like 4 or 5 posts on it. It's but like really like for me, like the connection comes in the cool, let's find a time to chat. Let's find a time to meet. Like if somebody has engaged with one of my with like a bunch of my posts and I haven't met that person yet, like I want to meet that person.
Mhm.
I want to learn like what it is that like is drawing them to my content. I want I want to connect with them because like clearly there's something resonating there and I'm like, cool, we might vibe. Let's vibe. um and like build that connection and be intentional about it. Um Also like use it as a means to like uh encourage people to like join meeting spaces that are also off of social media, like so like social media is a great tool for like me as a coach like promoting my services. I host a monthly community support call for change makers and advocates, activists, DEI practitioners, just like folks who are trying to do this good work in the world. um it's 1 hour a month to like focus on yourself, and I talk about it on social media in the hopes that somebody sees it and says, oh Deb, this is for me, and shows up, which happens every month.
Yeah.
I started doing this in September 2023, and like this has been one of the most like rewarding like spaces that I've created, like that I've like facilitated, just because like of the people who show up and like the way that the container is set, like everybody who shows up is able to find some kind of support, able to find something that they needed in that moment, in that hour, and to be able to leave that space like a little bit more buoyed than they were before, which that's impactful. Like I that kind of like providing that kind of support matters, uh uh not just to me but to like to the people receiving it. And like that I want more spaces like that. I want people to like be able to experience that on a regular basis. um and it's not quite the same as like going live on a platform like LinkedIn or Instagram or like YouTube. You can
Mhm.
go live, but like the interaction there is extremely limited. So like how do we get to a point where like live also means interactive, which I love how this is set up. Like that, we got people in the chat, we got people who are like streaming and watching, um, and there is the choice of like how to participate, and that's just like something that's really beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's like definitely the idea around this too, is like I've been talking a lot about like the spheres of influence. And I think for people, like we're 5 years after the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. And since then, like our social fabric has really been frayed. And there's still a lot of folks who like have social anxiety, and like so I think that if we offer multiple ways for people to get involved and different ways to engage, then you're going to have more opportunities for folks. Like we just talked about disability justice, like there's so many in-person events that just don't have an online component at all. And like, why don't we do that? Why don't we make things more accessible? That should just be baked into these things. And I also want to like definitely uplift your community call. We will have that link in the show notes, because your calls are so helpful and so grounding. And they come on a Friday, so they're always just like helpful to move into the weekend with like a little more ease, a little more like lightness. Um, and I do think that so much of what we're needing right now is that collectivism, because even if we're on those digital spaces, like that community is felt, and our bodies, like we are animals, our bodies need that collectivism. We need to be together. And I think in the sense like you're able to replicate that in the digital environment with your community calls.
Thank you, thank you. I feel like so much of social media and so much of what social media does serves to isolate you, and like you said earlier, like really like prey on our emotional responses so that we stay on the apps. um, but like when we can use them as a tool to like move to uh platforms that aren't social media platforms and actually build like connections with other people, like that's when we remember that we're not alone, that like we are not isolated, that it's not just you and your feed, um, I I appreciate LinkedIn as a platform because I feel like that is one of the platforms where like interaction is still a piece of like a central piece of that platform. um like so much of Instagram is just like you can heart the posts or watch the reels, but like there's not really like you're not interfacing with the creator in
Yeah.
that way. So like there is like a sense of like siloing that kind of happens. It's just like, oh, like I am zoomed in to everything that is on my feed right now, and it's just me and what I'm observing, and this is why everything is terrible because of everything in my feed is telling me how terrible everything is. But
Yeah.
when we can break out of that and remember like, oh, like I'm connected to a vast network of people who like care about the world and what's happening in it, like we can remember that like we're not alone, and that like we have support, and that it's just a matter of like being able to like connect to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I always say like hope is an action, because when we're acting, like we can have hope for the future. And I think, we have a loneliness epidemic. So many folks have anxiety, and depression during this time. And like there are very obvious reasons for that in our world. And these apps are designed to keep us siloed. Like one thing that you shared really sparked for me was around like Instagram, and like I really have gotten off of Instagram because it wasn't a place that I was connecting with my friends. And it was really frustrating me because I would try to connect with people in the way that I wanted to. And I would get like, a heart, a check, and I was just like, I need that reciprocity and dialogue. And like Instagram just isn't the app for me then. And so I think that's something that we can think about and be a little bit braver about saying that out loud. Because I think the more we talk about how these platforms aren't really designed for us, they're not designed for humans, they're designed to make money, they're designed to make ads. And so the more we talk about it, the more we can recognize how we can shape our digital environments for the connection that we're looking for.
Exactly. Exactly.
I do want to so we talked a lot about kind of the ways that we do that, online. And I do want to, I love that Linda just said, social media for me is just a means to amplify my vibe, which I think goes back to like authenticity and like you're going to find the people because if you're authentic, then you're not following the algorithm's need for, impressions and reach, but you're going to find those people that you connect with more deeply. So I just wanted to upsell that, but then I would love to talk to about like, you know, the concept of touching grass. Like, what do we do off of social platforms so that we are healthy during these times?
Oof. What do you mean there's life outside the internet?
I'm told that there's a whole planet of nature out there.
There definitely is. I can hear birds outside my office window right now, and it's like beautiful. Um, so I mean, I love to get outside and like feel like getting outside and connecting with nature in whatever way like feels most reasonable or feasible to you. Like even if it's just going to a park and like watching squirrels. Um, One of my favorite things that I do with my clients is like if I have a client who's like particularly anxious about something, I'm like, cool, I want you to go hang out with an anthill. Just go watch. Take 10 minutes. Set a timer. 10 minutes. Go watch an ant. Minutes.
They're
They're
so fun to watch.
right. They're so fun, and just like realizing that there is a like a whole system at work there. These ants are like they are feeding themselves, they are reproducing and building a whole colony underneath the ground. They are efficient. Um,
Yeah, we talk about efficiency. The ants are efficient, not
yeah,
big tech.
yeah. um, Ants also like are existing. Ants don't know what capitalism is. They're managing to like survive and do what they need to do and like build their colonies and like work together without any kind of connection to uh, capitalism except through the waste that we produce.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
which like it's a nice reminder sometimes that like there are whole like systems, natural systems at play um, that aren't beholden to this economic system that has been created and we are forced to participate in.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, and I think that's so like a lot of folks would like, oh, you can't do that because like capitalism is so dire. We have to like act right now. Like there's no time to waste. And I get that and I agree. And like we have to like move intentionally. And the only way for us to do that is to do that when we're healthy. And so I also think like there's so much that we can learn from nature too. I think this one fact that I think a lot about since October 2023 is how the Israeli military uses and studies birds and flight patterns to develop missiles and other military equipment. And I'm like, can you imagine the world if we spent the time that the Israeli military does to study birds and flight patterns to create something good instead of weapons of war? Like, what could we be creating and learning from nature if we actually stopped and took a second to recognize our place in this larger ecosystem and larger world?
Yeah, ecosystem is the key word, right? Because like in an ecosystem, all parts support each other. There's a delicate balance, and each part has an essential part to play. Um, Human society has just completely like forgotten that, or like has minimized it to a point that we are outside of nature, like
Right.
like oh, ecosystems exist in like forests and all those other spaces where there's nature. Like no, there's nature in cities too. There's nature
Yeah.
right here. Like wherever you're at, there's nature.
Yeah.
And there's an ecosystem present there.
I'm laughing because like one of my neighbors like lives like kind of below me, and we live like kind of on a hill on a mountain, like, so we're like very embedded in nature even though we're in the middle of a city. And a lot of folks don't realize that, so they moved here and they're like, we have mice running around, and like there's like they just don't know how to interact and live next to nature, and so they're like making all of these very extreme, like they're kind of driving the landlord crazy a little bit because because they don't know how to handle it. And I think there's so much for us to just like take a step back and just recognize, like, yeah, our role is not like the central focus of this world. There are so many other creatures, like Linda just mentioned, that there are so much like creatures under the ocean that we barely even know about. So yeah, just the beauty of not knowing, and allowing us to be a little bit more open and creative and childlike about things.
I think a lot about Star Trek: The Voyage Home.
Yeah.
Have you seen this movie?
Mm-mm.
It's one of my favorite Star Trek movies, and the premise is so silly. So the crew of the Enterprise has to go back in time to the late 20th century to find a couple of humpback whales. Because there is an alien probe that is about to destroy Earth in the 24th century, trying to talk to the superior species on the planet, and it's humpback whales.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just like there's so much hubris in the like humans that we like think that we are the like superior, like top of the food chain, whatever. Like I'm not going to pretend to know how the food chain works. Like I have a very rudimentary understanding of it. Like listen, I'm not an ecologist. I studied religion. Like, but like the fact that like there are other species on this planet that have like intelligence and that have like a certain understanding of community and like what it means to live a life, that's just like incomprehensible to humans because they don't speak in the same way that we do. Like yeah, maybe humpback whales are the like apex species, who knows, but like uh if aliens are talking to whales and not us, then I wonder what they're learning.
I know. And well, and we're seeing so much out of the whales too, because they have their own language. And I'll just say, like, we're kind of closing up right now, and I'll just say, like, I think a lot about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with the dolphins, and you're like, so long and thanks for all the fish, which is like the dolphins just leave Earth when they realize that it's gonna get destroyed. And I'm just like, yeah, we're having our so long and thanks for all the fish moment where a lot of other creatures are like, no, we're not gonna stand for this. So I'm definitely team orca at this point. Um, well, I want to just thank you, Taj, and I want to thank everyone who joined the live. Hopefully, everything is working. We're still kind of working through some of the kinks, but I really appreciate you guys who joined us live in studio. It was really cool to get to test this new feature out. So, again, if you are not yet a seedling member, definitely upgrade. It's only $5 a month, and you get access to these spaces. We're going to be talking also about like digital communications, movement building. So join in. And the last thing before I turn it over to you, Taj, is we're going to have our next live is going to be May 5th. We are doing an Andor live panel discussion where we are talking about Andor and Star Wars as a way to educate for movement building. So I'm really excited. We're going to get super geeky for Star Wars Day, which also happens to be my birthday. So again, upgrade, because if you want to give me a birthday present, become a seedling member and join us for that chat. All right, I think that was it. Taj, is there anything else you want to say before we close out?
Yeah, my name is Taj M. Smith. You can find me on LinkedIn, LinkedIn/u/ Taj M. Smith. Also, the coaching practice that I run is called Rooted Respite. We do coaching work for burnout support and recovery for activists and change makers, bringing the light back to the eyes of the people bringing light to the world. It's very, very relevant right now. um, the next community support call that I'm having is tomorrow, April 25th. But if you can't make that one, the next one will be, there's one in May. They happen every month. It's May 30th, always the last Friday, usually from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome. Yeah. And we will definitely link that. Definitely join Taj's call. And if you are looking for coaching support, Taj is so amazing. He really helped me kind of move through some of my burnout last year. And I feel like the way I do my work is just so much better because of the work that I've done with Taj. So definitely check out his stuff. And yeah, until next time, stay rooted and thank you so much for joining.